At the end of this village in the district of Visio, with its old stone houses and cobble streets, we found an abandoned house that was to become our home. A few months later, we had the keys in our hand and moved in. Although we knew there were some issues with the roof, we hadn't realised the severity of the problem until the bad weather came. In addition to the conservatory roof, the attic roofs were also affected, but only right at the edges. But there wasn't much we could do about it until the weather improved and everything was completely dry. We started in the east attic room and had to cut through the wooden ceiling. Some tiles were broken and had to be replaced. We believe the large cherry tree was the culprit because some of its taller branches were touching the roof. We also had to replace some of the joists and patched up as best we could. We had some more joists made to support the weakest part of the conservatory roof, and Amilcar installed these in the centre above the doorway.
We had a friend of ours that came and helped us to renovate the tiles. I think we put around 150 tiles on this roof, just to replace the broken ones that he had. And we also just sealed them at the edge.
You can imagine how many times we had to go up and down the stairs carrying tiles. Some repairs were also done to the west attic roof. And last but not least, all the tiles were removed and replaced on the kitchen roof. When we moved to the house, the middle and top floors were more or less habitable, apart from the issues with the roofs, and we had running water and electricity. But the plumbing wasn't working in the bathrooms, and we also had to install new toilets. We also fixed the plumbing in the kitchen and replaced the leaky tap. Before we even moved to the house, we had to clear passages in the front garden and steps. Years of compost had built up from fallen leaves and weeds, and the whole area looked like shrubland, disguising the slate and stone floor. With shovels and spades, so began the laborious task of removing all the garden waste and what had become topsoil from the paved area of the garden. The front garden was now more manageable, and this is what the garden looks like today. The next stage was to make an access and parking for our cars. We wanted to use the courtyard for this. However, it was full of rubble and remnants of several outbuildings, and this was all covered in weeds, bramble and ivy. So we spent weeks hacking and sawing away. The gate at the entrance to the courtyard hadn't been used in decades, and it had to be removed to allow vehicles in.
And we're done.
Well done.
And then it was finally time to call in the digger. Most of the rubble was removed and the soil flattened and hardened before applying the sand and gravel base. Finally, we had an access and a place to park our cars. However, the entrance to the courtyard was a little bit tighter than we'd hoped. So a few months and car dents later, we widened the entrance.
Dá com mais força, ó Valdo.
The end of the wall was rebuilt and pointed. We carried on cleaning and dusting both inside and outside the house. and started to use the ground floor of the house for general storage and assembling furniture. At around the same time that the roofs were being repaired, it was a good time to get some heating installed. There was an old inbuilt wood burner that wasn't functional and an old standalone wood burner that we quite liked the look of. So we sanded it down and repainted it. We knocked down the old chimney breast, plastered and installed fire bricks, and moved the renovated one to the new location and installed a new chimney flue.
I truly enjoy being here in the winter because of the wood stove.
As extra heating in the living room, we also have infrared panels. But as there was no heating in the office room, we relocated one of the panels upstairs. The naughty cherry tree that had caused the tile damage needed a good sorting out, and Amilcar didn't need to hire a tree surgeon. He had a long-handled saw and an unusual method of pruning. One of the advantages of having a 3-story house with balconies is that you can go where not many people can reach. Of course, there can be hiccups, like getting your saw stuck in a tree, but that just allows you to become more inventive with long poles. On the ground floor, the room we decided to start on was the lounge. We wanted to bring back the natural beauty of this wall and set about drilling and knocking off the thick render coating.
I know it's you because I recognize that arse anywhere. Show me your face then.
And spent days brushing and cleaning. We dug out as much of the pointing as we could and carried bucket loads of debris to the skip.
Olha.
It's foggy.
After this, we let the dust settle before hosing down several times. Then our friend, who's a builder, pointed the walls. It's not finished yet, there's still plenty of work to be done, but I think it's got the potential to be a lovely lounge. On the front face of the house, some of the pointing was cracked, so this was repaired. Of course, during the time we've been here, it hasn't all been about the house. It's also been about the grounds and land. The roof of the building in the courtyard had collapsed. A lot of tiles and joists were now laying on top of other debris that was already in the building. The remaining tiles and wooden supports hung precariously, and nature was trying to reclaim this area for itself. So we began to tackle it first from the outside. Once it was safe, we could get inside.
Shall we?
You can open one and no, don't shake it, just smell it.
Yeah, right.
No, it could be alright.
Look at that colour.
The last bits and pieces were cleared out. And finally, the old clay bread oven was visible. We'd also uncovered an enormous metal chimney. We've not done much with this space since. We wanted to do something to the gardens at the back of the house. So the digger came back and moved quite a few inches of soil. This reveals some very large stone slabs. We added some new lawn seeds and have started to grow a few herbs along the edge. A while after this, our lovely neighbours gave us loads of hedging plants, and we planted these along the edges of the stone borders on the 2 terraces. All that was left to do now was to get rid of the broken tiles left over from fixing the roof. And this is what the garden looks like today. The 3 acres or 1.2 hectares of land have been also left to its own devices. Apart from when the digger came to clear lots of canes, most of the work on the land has been done by hand and using a few tools such as a bush cutter, chainsaw and spades. The land was abandoned about 6 years ago, but prior to that, a shepherd was using it. And that is why there were hundreds of metres of fencing all across the land. And many of the fences were attached to and embedded in trees. And by the time we arrived, brambles had spread everywhere, making the task of removing the fences much more difficult.
So there's a piece here that's been embedded onto the tree. And there and here. It's not an easy job to take it.
So we set about removing them.
You just pulled a tree out.
Well, perhaps I should control more my
Strength, yeah. Only have 2 Weetabix tomorrow, not 3. Oh. I think you pulled a bit too hard there.
Got my arms wet.
I can see.
But clearing away and getting access to new areas was worth it. This small field where I'm standing now is the one furthest away from the house. It's actually the one where we discovered the water mine last year.
Wow.
We are the first week in June, and as you can see, there's water still running.
We actually did quite a lot of work to this area, this whole field, but in particular over this side where there was a lot of brambles, we had to clear all the brambles away. And cut down some dead trees. And of course, clear away and burn the waste.
A lot have been cut or trimmed, and today I've spent a lot of time clipping.
There are 3 wells on the property. This is the well closest to the house. There was a lot of fencing and so many brambles and vines that we couldn't even see the well. So we hacked, chopped, pulled and cleared away.
I hate fencing and I hate bramble. Ice and pressure at the pen. A leaf comes out.
The well was about 2.5 meters deep. Then the trees surrounding the well were cut shorter and the tangled mess was burnt. And today we're able to use the well for irrigation. After most of the land clearing was done, we surveyed it so that we could identify the high and low points.
And voila, we've got another measurement point.
We wanted to find levels so that we could dig channels, bringing water from one of the water mines. This was gravity fed and we didn't need a pump, and it meant all we had to do was to open a tap at the water mine. So we planted at the edges of the channels,
Peppers.
and our crops were kept well watered all
big
through
one.
the summer. The irrigation channels weren't the only ones that we dug. We also had to dig channels through the bogland as a passageway for the stream.
Did you get muddy at all today?
Not much.
Look at those glasses.
This year we decided to relocate our vegetable garden to a field closer to the house. We moved the polytunnel and planted some seeds.
Again?
You haven't got a dibber, have you?
Hopefully 18 plants of tomato.
Yeah. We also built a garden bed using our own willow. Some more beds were dug. And we finally got vegetables in the ground. And as a bonus, I acquired a new copper beach. Work on the gardens and land is ongoing. In particular, Amilcar's favourite, pruning. And sometimes this sporting event is extreme.
At me?
But I'm shy.
Leaving lots of clearing up to do.
I'll help you.
There's always trimming to do with a brush cutter. And more trimming. But that does mean we end up with some beautiful spaces. And can enjoy the fruits of our labours. There's still lots of work to do in the house and on the land, but we feel very lucky to live in this setting.
I'm Miko.
And I'm Anita.